Hello, and welcome to the tutorial toolbox. My name is Tobias, and you might see there's something a little bit odd about this scene. I have added another shortcut to my desktop because this is a new tutorial series that is going to be revolving around programming as I have been promising. Now, in this first video, this is a this is an introduction video. We're only going to be talking about what's going to happen in this series and also a little bit about what programming is. So if you already know what programming is and don't really care about what the series is going to contain, then you can simply skip this tutorial and go on to the next ones when they come out. So, first of all, as I said, this tutorial series is going to be about programming. It's going to be about programming for beginners, so we're going to go through all the different aspects and all the different low-level stuff at first so that everybody can follow along. And I'm going to be taking small steps, maybe not as slow and small steps as some people would like, but as slow and small steps as I feel like uh, people should be able to follow along quite nicely. And if they can't, then of course you can simply pause the video and rewind a bit and see it all over again. So, another thing, the series is going to be done in C++, the programming language C++, but the lovely thing about programming is that a lot of the programming languages, the maybe not high-end, but the more known ones like C Sharp, which we're using in Unity, and Java, mm, PHP, which isn't really programming. I know it's not programming, it's something else, but all these different programming languages, they look a lot alike. They have somewhat similar syntax, which means that the way you write the code is somewhat similar. And this does so that even though I'm working in C++, you should be able to work in another language if you wish. The reason I'm choosing C++ is because I feel personally, this is a personal choice, and I feel personally that C++ is just a lot easier to work with, especially when you don't have additional frameworks. So, like for example, with C Sharp, we have Unity, which makes it a lot easier to work with because we have something to actually be working with alongside the small programming that we're doing. But if we were to take C Sharp and put it alone and develop programs from scratch, then it gets a lot harder, and I just feel like C++ is the easier language to do this with. Of course, Java is perfect. All the others are practically perfectly uh, capable of doing this, but I feel like C++ is the way to go. So I'm going to be using C++. And yeah, so what is programming really? Programming is writing code that can then be executed in some form or way, either as a web page or as a desktop program or something, and then it has some kind of purpose. I said a little while ago, a little while ago, makes it sound like this tutorial has been going on for months, but just before I said that the more commonly known programming um, languages are somewhat similar. And I then mentioned that PHP wasn't really programming language, and I'm going to elaborate on that now because there are I'm sorry, there are three. different kinds of programming languages or scripting languages or whatever you want to call them. There's the compiled languages, which are C Sharp, C++, and VB.NET and stuff like that. And these languages, as the name suggests, are compiled. They have a program that translates the code that we're writing into a code that the computer can understand, because the computer does not understand the language that we speak. The computer only understands machine code, which is basically nulls and ones, or zeros and ones, or whatever you want to call them. So the compiler takes all these codes that we're writing, along with, depending on which languages it is, along with some inbuilt functionalities and stuff, and it compresses it into a program that the computer can run. And then we have the interpreted languages, which are stuff like uh, which is stuff like PHP, even though there's some controversy on whether or not it's a programming language, but it is an interpreted language. There's no doubt about that. And what an interpreted language means is that we have the code that we write, and when somebody wants to access our website, because this is PHP now, the code is being called by some kind of server or something, and then it kind of looks up these different code word keywords that we have been writing. It looks it up in some kind of register, and then it knows what to do. So it's not translating the code directly from what we write to machine code. It's interpreting what we write and then spitting out what it thinks we mean. And then we have the third one, which is a combination of both. Excuse me 2 seconds. Sorry about that. So the last one is a combination of both, and that is languages like Java, which are both compiled and interpreted. So to put it into perspective, compiled programs are getting translated from what's it called? From the code we write to machine code, but that's machine specific. So for example, if I compile something on Windows, then it's only going to work on Windows. So if I wanted to use it on a Mac or on a Linux or on Android or iPhone or whatever, I would have to recompile it, compile it again on that machine. And Interpreted has this program or server or whatever you want to call it that that kind of, yeah, translate the code and gives a it translates the codes on the fly, so that it gives an output, or whatever, it gives the website or the program and it's independent of the machine that it's using. So for example, if I write something in PHP, I would only have to write it once. I would only also have normally only also have to write it once for compiled languages, but I would also only have to save it once, and I wouldn't have to compile it. I would just need a server that can translate the PHP, and then it can translate it to all machines that's going to use it. And then the last one, we have Java, which is a a mix between the two. where Java has this called the Java virtual machine that on the fly in runtime, which means while the program is running, it's translating the code. It's basically it's somewhat compiled. First of all, I'm sorry, I'm running around a little bit in it, and that's my bad. But what it does, it first of all, when we write the code, it rewrites it. It compiles it into another type of code, not machine code, but code that the Java virtual machine understands. So it compiles it at first, but not to machine code, and then the Java virtual machine reads this code and interprets it so that it will work on any machine. And that's the different kinds we have. But as I said, the syntax is fairly similar in the different languages. And one thing is even more important: programming is always programming. The only thing that's ever going to variate, besides their dependencies and their capabilities, for example, C++ is a lot easier to work with uh, memory assignments and stuff like that because that's how the language was made so that you could do it. Or sorry, so you had to do it because it's an old language and stuff like that. Whereas PHP is designed to make website and stuff like that. So besides those things, what's only going to change between languages is the syntax. The mindset and stuff is always going to be the same. And that's what I'm going to try and teach you. But it's one of the harder things. I'm going to teach you the basics of programming, and then I'm going to try and teach you the mindset of a programmer. Like, there isn't, of course, there's a lot of different things you can do, but the way you do them is more or less an alteration of how you use the different basic components. And that is what we're going to try and learn in this tutorial series. I know I've been repeating myself a lot. I'm doing these tutorials on the fly in runtime, as you may say. It's non-scripted, so that's why I'm stumbling a little bit sometimes. But at least this tutorial is, and forward on I'm going to make it more organized so that we don't waste a lot of time on me saying and me saying the same things over and over again. But anyways, so this has been the first tutorial in the programming series, and thank you guys for watching. It's been a pleasure. If you want to follow along either with this programming series or with the Unity series, then please subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to see that people actually want to see my content and stuff like that. It makes me want to do it more. So please subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. It's completely free. It's only going to be my videos popping up on your start page of YouTube so you can see them faster and don't have to go search for them. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you guys in the next video.